Hi everyone, welcome to SAMA, a program where we invite an expert in to talk about a topic from their area of expertise. Now this day we've got Sandra Walter. She's an Ascension guide, author and transformation speaker. Her videos, courses, events and articles have served awakened souls for decades. As a pure conduit of the organic ascension process, Sandra provides heart-opening guidance, effective practices, and comprehensive curriculums for true change. Sandra teaches how to experience Kryst, unity consciousness, applying mastery skills to daily challenges, and express the true self. She has led the Sunday Global Unity Meditations for 8 years, unifying thousands each week in the co-creation of peace and ascension. Welcome to our show. It's fantastic to have you with us. Now, the question I'd love to ask you, Sandra, is just what is ascension?
What a beautiful way to start. It's lovely to be here. Hello, everyone. What is ascension? There is no one definition. Let's start there. It's just from, and I will give it from my perspective as someone who's been engaged with the process since the 90s. Ascension is a conscious choice to engage in the expansion of consciousness and reconnect with levels of self or source, the Godhead, that you may have been experiencing a separation from that for a very long time. So ascension is the process of actually expanding the consciousness, getting into the heart, alleviating your journey from all of the distortions and fears, really getting into alignment with love, and then expanding and reunifying with these higher levels of self that you may have been veiled from for a very long time. But it does begin with a conscious choice. Now, if you choose consciously and practice following what we call an ascension path, you may experience a deep transformation, transfiguration, an actual state of transcendence of consciousness. That doesn't mean disappearing, flying up into heaven, or getting rescued by an ET. It means your actual consciousness goes through a process where your heart magnetics change and your DNA changes, and suddenly you are in a consistent state of reconnection, unity with the divine. And that process is something that you choose to engage with. And there's different steps you can go through. It's not quite a linear process. There's a lot of flexibility. Back in the mystery schools, they used to try to teach a structured level according to your consciousness. And now that we're doing this as a collective, because the shift in consciousness is on, and ascension is happening not only to Gaia, the planet, but it's happening to the kingdoms and the elementals and to the our cosmic surrounding, our cosmic neighborhood as well. So it's happening regardless of whether you engage with it, but a conscious choice to engage with ascension gives you a much more divine payoff and a much more just really beautiful experience of walking through all these different energies, which are becoming apparent to a lot of people. That's just part of the awakening phenomenon. Does that answer the question?
It does, but it's opened up more questions.
Good.
But I'd like to ask, how did you get started? How did you become aware and then begin your journey to ascension?
I had had a lot of contact with spirit when I was a child. So there was always something there, and I was always able to see things, hear things, communicate with things that other people couldn't see. Normally, somebody who has that kind of experience as a child, you go through then your teenage years where you kind of ground into being a lot more human and going through all the hormonal changes and everything that
Mm, mm,
happened. So it dims down for a little bit, but it's still there. And then you get this awakening like what I had in the 90s, where I was suddenly clairaudient, claircognizant, like all my skills were getting turned on and they felt very familiar, and yet it was a little overwhelming. So all these messages were coming in about ascension, about the shift in consciousness, about what was coming down the timeline for humanity. And they were talking about all of us as a collective, like everyone is going to experience this. So I started paying attention and writing
mm,
them down and sharing the messages. And I found the more I, what we call light grounding, taking it out of spirit and expressing it, getting it into form, writing, painting, drawing, etc. The more I grounded them by writing them down every day and sharing them publicly, clearly, just openly, the more they would, my guides and my higher levels would start expanding on certain subjects. So I was kind of opening the channel to communicate clearly, and actually went through a process of attuning myself to which voices or which beings or which levels of self I would communicate with that were beneficial to the ascension process, and just kind of learning a lot of discernment along the way. And then that kind of unfolded into giant leaps in my process. 2001 was a giant leap, just huge leaps of faith where you just throw yourself to spirit. And I was learning how to interact with Gaia and with crystals in the ground and with gateways and grid work and everything that's been going on with a lot of light workers for a while. And then I made a giant jump just prior to 2012, a couple years before that, through everything I had to focus completely on ascension. So I quit my job, my relationship
wow.
ended beautifully,
Yeah.
had a nice conscious separation, and moved to Mount Shasta and actually lived in the woods for quite a few years.
Mm,
And that kind of immersion into nature and communing with my guides and communing with these different light level beings that were very focused on the ascension, then led to my teaching and sharing that. And every week since then, I've been delivering messages and guiding and teaching courses and getting people together and doing things like the unity meditations. You know, there's like different phases that we all go through. So I'm able to kind of attune now or receive now what is applicable to our journey in the moment, what's just ahead of us. So how do we prepare for what's coming?
right.
Yeah.
Um, do you think that we're now 2024? We've got so many things to distract us, and now AI is coming around the corner. So it's
Yeah.
already on top of us.
Yeah.
Humans as a species are becoming more and more disconnected
Mm.
from their natural, what could be opportunities for them to begin the process of ascension, but with this distraction and this cacophony of noise all around them.
Yeah.
Do you think
Yeah.
it's, yeah, okay,
Well, I mean, the choice for ascension, like the awakening itself, like nobody
mm,
wakes you up.
yeah,
No video is going to wake you up. That's a soul level thing, where it's like you will immediately, like, something will happen. You'll have an experience. You'll have some kind of an awakening that will throw your normal reality out the window, and suddenly everything is different. You're going to, like, you feel something, or you have an interaction, or you have a spiritual experience, like something happens that jolts you into an awakening process. And sometimes, yes, it can come through a conversation with a friend, or you suddenly decide to go and go on a spiritual retreat or something like that. But that's not the thing that's waking you up. The thing that's waking you up
right,
is something that's happening right through your heart at a soul level. And when we go through this process, like when you choose to consciously engage with a spiritual path and go, you know what, I'm going to pay attention to this thing because obviously it's in my life and something's happening and all these people are talking about it. I know everyone complains about social media and everything like that. It's been a huge bolster to the awakening process. A lot of
Right.
information, a lot of
Mm,
misinformation. It
mm,
is what it
mm,
is. But it
mm.
also teaches people discernment. Where am I going to put my attention? And I
Right.
really feel like with all the AI tools and everything, like it's a bit of a bombardment, but we have to realize that inorganic thing is limited, right? It has a limited, like it's not a creator being like we are.
Right. Mm,
It's got a limited potential for what it can do and what it can experience, and mostly it's just going to try to imitate the thing that created it, which is us.
mm.
So we can teach it certain things, definitely through our engagement online or with AI tools. But the other thing that's happening is this grand um, amplification of unity consciousness in the actual frequencies and plasma and harmonics and all the different light codes that are coming into our field, our beloved planet, into our bodies and into our DNA, telling us how, remember who you are, remember unity, remember love. And the thing with a divine human consciousness, something that is organic, that desires to go through an organic ascension process,
Mm.
it will get very bored with the AI, right?
Okay.
Humanity
Mm.
naturally, it's just a natural function of humanity that it'll be like, that's just not interesting. Like it's fun to play with, and definitely there will be a lot of people who are distracted by that. Ultimately, we are just one consciousness, so it is what it is. But people, you are what you focus on. So if you focus on the people that are creating that new earth consciousness, that higher realm consciousness, unity, love, focusing on that, you'll
Right.
see that that organic frequency is so much higher that by quantum effect, it literally will destroy the inorganic thing. It'll just drop out of our realities altogether. That's what they call the division of worlds, right? So you're the bandwidth of frequency that your, dimensions, densities, experiences are all based on bandwidths of frequency. So if you're not resonating with the bandwidth of frequency that's, oh my God, AI is going to kill me or us,
Mm.
that you're out of it, right? You're out of that experience. And if you're amplifying and going with the unity consciousness, which is a much higher vibration, AI will drop out of your experience as these bandwidths of reality become further and further apart. Does that make
Right.
sense?
It does. It absolutely makes sense. Now, you did mention before that remember where you came from. Like,
Mm.
where is that? Where did people come from? I mean, sorry, it might be a little bit off the track, but it's
No,
very
let's get into it. Let's get into it. So when you think of like infinite creator, and if you want to call it God or source, or I
mm,
usually
mm,
use the term source because it doesn't hold a lot of religious connotation.
right.
So rather than thinking of it as a being up in the sky, it's the all that is, all of creation, every possible multiverse, every possible outcome, every possible potential. That's source. And that's
Okay.
where all of us come from. And it's a
Okay.
very kind of linear human thought pattern to think I'm from somewhere else, right? Because you're experiencing separation on purpose, right? You decided to come into a body on a planet and have an experience.
Mm,
And through the awakening, through ascension, you start realizing, wait, I also exist in other realms and different planets, different stars. A lot of my
mm,
collective are
mm,
very psychic, and they have, all these experiences with other beings and other realms and other star
mm,
systems,
mm,
etc. But even beyond that, when you look at like the massive fields that hold like a universe or a multiverse together, you see like the more expanded your consciousness becomes, the more you feel part of all that is, which can be a very deep comfort to someone who's going through an ascension process, which is a radically different state of consciousness, because you start losing identity and personality. There's just this dissolvement of the ego, dissolvement of emotion, dissolvement of the past, dissolvement of future worries as you go through the process. And you start feeling like everything. You don't kind of compress into a limited, I am this, it's you break apart from identifying with the body, but it's not a rejection. It's a real, you get into this heart-based, real honoring of, oh, this body is such a gift. I have such compassion for it. Thank you, Gaia. Thank you, Source, for this experience. And you start taking care of the body just because it's an act of honoring and respect of Source itself. It kind
Right.
of gives you a different perspective. And it's definitely a motivation for really enjoying the experience here. Everyone in the beginning of a spiritual process goes through the rocky road and all the different side paths of emotional clearing and ego and everything else. But you don't stay there. Like a lot of people just get caught in their wounding and they're healing their trauma the entire lifetime. If you're choosing to get out of that and move beyond that, you do all of that healing work in the beginning, and then as you take on these more expanded states of consciousness, really get into your heart, really use um, um, divine neutrality to get your magnetics aligned, you'll notice that you can process fears, face fears, learn how to trust. Things don't bother you as much, but it's not a detachment. It's just a neutral state where you can kind of pick and choose what you engage with, and also recognize, oh, that's that thing that, that little bit of healing that I still need or whatever. So you don't reject it as something bad. It's just part of the process of this total expansion. Especially, we always focus on the heart because the heart magnetic changes, gives you a different experience. So all of us in this little torus field that is your awareness based around the 0 point within the heart center gives you, there's a divine magnetic there that allows you to kind of pull Source, pull that divine love light intelligence that is Source right into the experience, so that Source can look around without the distortions, right? So it's got all these veils and distortions, and when you get that out of the way, all of a sudden you feel yourself being connected to the divine. And there's different levels of your own personal experience. Some people call it higher self or a Christed self or an I am presence. And that can be a radically different state of consciousness. I had my I am presence activation a couple of years ago, and I'm still integrating how weird it is, to call yourself Sandra Walter and talk and communicate and teach and everything, and still be feeling this presence, this presence of the divine that is just changing the experience from the inside out. It's quite beautiful.
It's interesting listening to you talking. You're very careful to keep it away from religious type of concepts. It's a
Mm.
very, very sad world. It's a sad time now because we can't. Religions are all learning, teaching and promoting love and everything and compassion, but then religions don't like each other, and there's no acceptance of other religions. Like this,
I
okay, you can
know.
love and love their neighbors themselves, but if they're Catholic, no, you
Right.
can't, or Protestant or whatever. I just thought I'd throw that in there. There's one thing you mentioned twice, so I know it's important. You talked about ego.
Mm.
How and why? Well, how important is it to try and release your ego, and why? Why is it so important?
It's not so much releasing it, it's transformation. So if we look at all the constructs, and they're just constructs, they're just coping mechanisms for a giant spiritual being that we are, that all of us are,
Mm,
compressing itself and having an experience in a dense dualistic reality, which is 3D, 4D, right? In a body on a planet.
Mm.
So all through our journeys, hundreds of thousands of years, millions of years of experiences, the collective consciousness starts saying, that starts remembering or carrying memories from one incarnation to the other of,
Right.
oh, last time everybody stole my stuff, I got to watch it. Last time I was betrayed, I got to watch it. And that those things, or, the animal ate me, don't do that again, whatever it was. But all these different fears start densifying, and then the collective humanity starts creating constructs around them. Let's make an ego, and let's make an emotional body, and let's make survival a thing, and let's start densifying like all these things into constructs that used to complement the journey, used to be uh, a way that you could survive and get through. And we all have these collective memories. Now it's ascension time. It's a shift in consciousness, brand new energy coming in, photon belt, all that great stuff coming in and literally breaking apart all those structures. We see it in the outside world, government, religion, everything just really having a hard time right now, right? Because it's literally getting shaken by quantum effect, by these higher energies, these higher harmonics that want something else. It's us, right? We want something else. And you can feel that tension sometimes of it kind of shattering right out from under us. So the ego construct of ego, because you don't want to identify like me and my ego.
Right.
That's old light, right? The old way.
Mm.
The ego is going to transform into something, instead of considering its own survival, it will go into unity consciousness, like unity consciousness, which is unity, Christ, crystalline consciousness. They all mean the same thing. So unity consciousness comes in and it starts transforming these things step by step. So the ego no longer thinks about me and my survival or identity, and it starts transforming into unified. Instead of thinking about its own survival, it starts considering the whole, which is beautiful as you go through unity consciousness. And you'll feel the ego and the identity um, drop off. And it can be, you get these sudden drop offs, and then it comes back a little bit. So for a little integration, and then there's a drop off too, where it's just like, oh my gosh, where did I go? Right? It just kind of drops out, and you're like, I can't even call myself, what I called myself yesterday or 5 minutes ago, and it all just kind of drops off the back end. But the ego transforms into something that considers the whole. So then you've got a collective consciousness that's now considering highest good for all. And then the emotional body that's concerned about wounded and winning and all these little emotional battles, again, just a construct. That emotional construct then changes into something that's more of a feeling state. And instead of feeling the past or worrying about the future, it starts feeling the present. It starts feeling the now. So then it can make higher choices, better choices in the moment, based again on unity with all that is, rather than me and my journey and me and my wounding. So that transforms. And then the body goes through the same thing. Body, again, another construct, right? Feels very material. It's actually not. It's actually not matter at all. We all know that. But especially people who work with frequency, the influence of frequency on the body and what it
Right.
can do. It's quite miraculous. So when you're
Mhm.
dealing with form, well, then if you're going to hold more of this spirit and form, you start building crystalline structures within. You start building a new magnetic, you start building new fields, a new light body that can handle more spirit and form, so you don't have the mental or emotional levels get imbalanced or unstable, which well, a lot of people do. No judgment, but there are a lot of people who get spun out with a intense spiritual experience, or they're trying to activate too quickly, or they're throwing everything away for the path but not staying grounded, that kind of thing. So we want to keep
Right.
it balanced, as all these structures that we used to play with change into something that supports unity consciousness rather than duality or separation from source, where it's just me and mine, and now it goes into the royal we, goes into the
The
pure unity
royal we.
consciousness.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, yeah. Now, can everyone walk down or rise to ascension? Can everyone take the journey? Or
I
are some people...
yeah. It again, it's a choice. So if
Mm,
someone's making a conscious choice, you can't just say, I make the choice to experience ascension and then not do anything. So it
right.
definitely depends on your consistent intention. Is it a pure intention? Is it, which just means, is it based on wanting to experience love and reunification with source as, um, power of love, as opposed to power over or anything? Because if something is built on um, any of a lower vibrational choice, it will crumble
Mm,
at some point. If it's not based on love, the journey will fall apart completely, and people have dark night of the soul and everything like that, because they haven't based their choice on, I want to go into love, I want to go into the unity, I want to go into divine service to the whole, to source, to my community, etc. So there is definitely choice involved. Um,
okay.
I feel there are definitely, like, I can't speak for all souls on the planet, but there are definitely some souls that have chosen a different experience during the ascension window.
Ah,
And it is what it is. And you can't judge them for having that, because there are certain souls that are playing a role in order for us to be forced to choose to change. And that's if you want like a higher perspective, everyone should embrace that higher perspective of what I call divine neutrality, is something that I teach, where you recognize, all right, those souls are part of the whole. So they're part of us, right?
mm,
And they may be choosing a different experience, like, oh, during an ascension cycle, when there's all these beautiful energies coming in and all these choices to make and all these experiences I could have, I'm going to be the one who really forces everyone to get together and make a change. So that is what it is. So I don't judge any soul. That's not for us to judge
mm,
at all, which is, obviously part of the original religion teachings was
mm,
non-judgment, and that's why, because you don't want to get entangled with creating bad guys. That's no place for a creator being to be. But it's, yeah, there's energies coming to the planet that will do things to people, but how your body and your consciousness, whether or not your body or consciousness can handle it, is kind of up to you, right? What have you
right.
been doing with your body? What have you been doing with your consciousness? If you have total resistance or an addiction to suffering or an addiction to separation, which is a real thing. People can be so afraid to move forward that they will kind of double down on their belief systems, which I feel is what's happening with a lot of people retreating to religion or dualistic choosing sides or whatever, instead of following a path of unity, is because it's quite challenging. It's quite Ascension is a very challenging process, but it
Mm,
does start with a conscious choice. And if you just want to ride the ride the bike off the edge of the canyon and see what happens, and not prepare for
mm,
flight, you're just, you're off the edge. So it
right,
is what it is. I mean, there's sources having all these different experiences through us anyway. So it is what
right.
it is. But there's such an opportunity here to have a really unique experience. And I just speak as someone who's been on the path for decades. The I am blown away by the experiences I have had, by the choices I've made, because of this process, that I would not have done had I stayed on a more linear or restricted path that was more traditional, let's say.
Right.
Yeah.
Um, You've mentioned no ego. What about no self in
It does
part of this journey?
disappear. It's very strange
Yes.
because it's not that the body disappears and the self disappears. Like we
Mhm.
definitely, and this has been like the the hardest challenge for me personally in the last couple of years since this reunification with the presence, which is like highest level of self before you just are out of trying to be separate at all.
Mhm.
It's really, it's like all of us are united at the I am presence level. And to feel that kind of flowing into your fields, it takes away your name, it takes away your identity, it takes away your everything that you thought you were going to do. It just changes everything. And it's quite radical. And you'll get a day or an hour of that pure experience. And then it's like, wait a second, I still have to operate in these realms. Like this is the whole purpose, is to show humanity what's possible with ascension. So we have to, right now, we have to stay in form. You have to use your name. You have to give yourself a title, ascension guide or whatever it is,
Sure, sure.
which feels like identity, but you're not attached to it at all. Like if it
Mm.
all just goes away, it is what it is. It's the dissolvement of all the entanglements, I would say. That's the most
Okay.
profound, because it just doesn't matter. I mean, it's a lot of, that's why the Buddha was laughing all the time, because it's nonsense. It's just
No,
an
well, uh,
experience, right?
it's actually my next question. If there's
Yeah.
no self and no ego, how can there be suffering?
Because of the density. So in the different frequency bandwidths for a 4D or a 3D, or even the 5D, you chose to interact with form and have the most radical separation from source that you could experience. And souls go into this experience, and then they just cling to, or they get really entangled, all of us, right? No judgment. We all just get entangled with identity and self, and this is me and my journey, and I'm going to do this with my journey and everything. And you get really entangled with the construct, like we talked about earlier, the construct of that. But the whole purpose of that, we co-created these over millions of years and all these incarnations. We create these things as coping mechanisms for, all right, I'm going to be down here experiencing this. And then
Mm.
as you awaken, you realize I'm having this denser experience. I am also having the higher realm experience. I am also having the presence experience. I am also having the other universe next door experience at the same time. So you appreciate the construct of, wow, it's really cool to experience being in a body. And I have contact with a lot of beings that graduated from form, from stepping
Mm.
into form as a way to teach yourself how to be not just reconnected, but to experience the return to love. Because I feel, infinite creator, source is kind of like gathering up all the fractals for these realities in density. It feels like it's gathered enough information, like as far as you can go away from love as possible, has been experimented with in these realms, and now it's time to kind of gather all the ducklings back to the nest. It's like, okay, that was enough fun with that, and now we're coming back. So the
Mm.
things that we created to experience start to break down during this process. And it's not individual, it's collective. Like literally, the magnetic fields that held 3D in place are gone. So the
Mm.
magnetics that hold, which is kind of interesting when you think it's just collective reinforcement, like literally a bunch of creator beings just waking up and doing the same thing and thinking the same things and saying the same things that actually keep 3D running as a construct. And you've got all these people that are going through the ascension process, experiencing 4D and 5D, again, different bandwidth of frequencies, still in form, experiencing like new earth and crystalline realms and everything here, not out there, right? But experiencing them at the same time. So you start seeing that you don't need to use the construct of ego. You don't need to use the construct of identifying as a separate self.
Okay. So ego you would put down as a hindrance for the path of ascension?
No, it's very helpful. I wouldn't
Okay.
judge it. I would say it's very helpful, but you do have to transform it into unity consciousness, or the ascension will not go the way that you intend.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is it easier? Is the path of ascension easier if you are part of a group?
Yes, definitely. Definitely. There are definitely moments. I mean, we're beyond the passage of the lone guru in the cave having their ascension. Now it's collective. And we can all see that as we all reach out to each other. Like there has unity consciousness requires unity. So and it's beautiful too, because as the frequency of unity consciousness amplifies, right, it's coming right out of the ground, it's coming right out of open conduits, hearts that are in coherence. That vibration itself is calling us to come together, to work together, to create together. And even though the spiritual path does require a lot of self-reflection and a lot of taking care of yourself and a lot of self-love work, um, there's it I would consider it to be somewhat dangerous in this now to try and go through an ascension process on your own. I feel like you would get mentally and emotionally unstable to spend time alone trying to figure it out. You kind of like get on the hamster wheel, and it just kind of
Okay.
may take you into belief systems or fantasy, etc.
Okay.
So
Mhm.
unity is a great way to stay grounded, but we learn from each other. The vibration of unity consciousness gets quite amplified. I do Sunday unity meditations for 8 years now, every Sunday, and it's 3 sessions every Sunday. So this consistently now we see each other in the field. We can feel, you don't have to look at your watch. All of a sudden it's like, oh, 5 a.m., here we go, and you can feel everyone coming into the field, which was the whole purpose, because you do it offline without, with no Zoom calls, no like Facebook, anything. It's all
Yeah.
done in the field. And it's taught us how to feel each other. We see each other. We have the same visions. You have heart openings. It's beautiful what happens when you're all synchronized that way. And when we learn how to be synchronized creators or synchronized amplifiers of that vibration of divine unconditional love or compassion or peace, which we have been focusing on too, you start to feel all the other souls that have made that choice rising, right? It's amplifying. It's literally finds the structures and the frequencies in anybody whose heart is open and opens them up a little bit more, right? That's the side effect of unity consciousness, is it actually gives you more unity consciousness when you focus on it. So and for me, gatherings are so important to get together in the physical. I know it's fun to do the Zoom gatherings and everything like that, but I have like an annual gathering where we have to get together and we connect with the land and we connect with each other. We share our stories and we take it to the next level. It's really easy to level up when you're in a group that's focused on the same thing that you are. And of course, groups are going to be at all different levels. It can be people working on the basics, emotional clearing, etc. You can have that. You can people that are working on their bodies, people that are working on meditation, people that are working on, like what I do with advanced ascension, actually changing the magnetics of the heart and working with this cosmic plasma that's coming in and different star essences. There's uh, a lot to play with right now. But when you're in a
Right.
group, you're going to find that support, so you don't feel like isolated or lone or just plain lonely in your journey, because it is
Mm.
radically different from what you see in the external, though there are billions of people awakened on the planet now. So it's a lot easier than it used to be and you can see spirituality all over the internet now. So it is what it is, but people are more open to the conversation. So there's no need to hide like you used to back in the 70s and the 80s, where it was like the weird woo-woo hippie thing, well, now it's everywhere.
Right.
So yeah.
So that's the collective ascension, isn't it?
It is, and it speeds up the process for everyone when you get together and actually practice unity consciousness and have those conversations and do those activations together, or have those meditations where you really drop into 0 point and you really allow the source itself, that
Mm.
fountain of love within us, to amplify, and to, like, just by focusing on it, you'll start to feel it, and it starts self-correcting your realities, right? You're a frequency generator, right? Your heart is an actual generator of those frequencies, and you'll notice the effect on your reality where things start resolving themselves, problems, issues resolve themselves. The excuse me, the better choice presents, the easier thing happens, right? And you don't even have to do anything, right? As you become a conduit of that, it starts auto-correcting your realities, which has been surprising to experience. I'm like, wow, it just takes care of things. It's quite beautiful.
Before we started recording, we had a brief chat about you're living in California, then moving to beautiful red Arizona.
Yeah.
And you can feel the energy of the surroundings and the earth and the coming down from the
Mm,
heavens. How, you know, Sandra, many people don't have the luxury
mm,
of seeing of touching dirt,
yeah.
of breathing fresh air. If you are a city inhabitor, is it harder? Is it more difficult to ascend or start that journey of ascension?
No, it all depends on your focus. I mean, I woke up in Chicago, downtown, in the
Yeah.
city, immersed in my crazy, busy city lifestyle. I mean,
Yes.
that's how it happened for me. I do
Wow.
feel creativity has a lot to do with it. So
Mm.
your environment is what it is. But when I think of like myself having these experiences and receiving all these beautiful messages and everything, which a lot of people do, Chicago's actually a vortex, but to be surrounded by the busyness, I mean, it's everyone's fantasy to go off into the woods and just, throw all your cares to the wind and just be alone in the woods and meditate all day. And I could say, as somebody who did that, who gave up everything, like I didn't have
Yes.
anything, no
Yes.
money, no backup, no nothing.
Yes.
And just because I wanted that experience,
Mm,
that's
mm.
part of my trajectory, was like, you're going to have this experience. I was like, wow, it's so wild. I mean, it's definitely um like, I mean, you need to give yourself the experiences, as many experiences that you feel in your heart would benefit your own path.
Right.
If you feel I can't do something because noisy neighbor, too much traffic, I'm in Hong Kong, whatever. I mean,
Yes.
I have clients in Hong Kong, everyone's awakening. So
Mm.
it is what it is, but you carve out the moments before sunrise, you carve out the quiet time for yourself. You take yourself out in nature as often as you can. And that's literally, I mean, again, I was in Chicago, go take a walk, go for a run, go hug a tree, find a tree, find some grass, whatever it is. And that's just for, the grounding quality, to talk to Gaia. But the relationship with Gaia or the sun or with source or your own self can happen
Mm.
anywhere. Um, but I to just kind of quell any belief system that I can't do it because I can't get out in nature, I can't go camp, I'm afraid of the woods or whatever, is nonsense.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's just like, no, it's a beautiful gift to give yourself, but
Yes.
not necessary. The
Okay.
more necessary thing would be consistency, consistency of practice, consistency of meditation and clearing and activation and focusing on the qualities of the heart. Get yourself a good guide, get yourself in a good group that is where you are at and will explore things. And when you feel like, oh, that group isn't talking about what I want to talk about, move on, right? It's just like, love you. I'm going to go play with this over here. No judgment, no judgment. But it's like, if the
Yes.
conversation is like more draining than
Yeah.
and positive, then move on,
Yeah.
right?
Yeah.
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 You can't choose family, but you can choose friends and who you're with during the course of a day. So just make sure you get the positive people around.
Yeah.
Um, what are the signs that someone is progressing on their ascension path?
Oh, there's so many. Um, in the beginning, you'll start to feel that the what we call the lower levels, ego, mind, emotion, um, you'll feel the desire to change. So that's kind of like beginning. Wow, I really need to um, carve out time to work on myself. So that desire itself is an indication. Okay, we're getting to it. Definitely the desire to study, to learn. Part of the quest. I'm not talking about going down conspiracy wormholes or whatever. I'm talking about like the pursuit of a spiritual path. You'll notice that um, if you engage with detoxification and regular practice and doing all the things that light you up, sun gazing and meditation and ascension practices and movement and self uh, examination as well as self-revelation, you'll notice your third eye starts to open up. So your vision, your sensitivities, like everyone has different sensitivities.
Yes.
So you may start hearing your own guidance a bit more clearly, or you might be a lot more creative. Creativity is definitely part of the process. So if you start directing, right, everything that you feel into a creative expression, that's part of the process too. You'll notice your body starts to change. Your heart, the overwhelming amount of compassion that comes with an open heart is quite unique, and it can really just overwhelm us as we open up what we call the ascension column. So you're opening up the ascension column, you unify all the chakras, and all of a sudden there's this oneness, this unity that has it's definitely a different vibration, but you'll feel it consistently, like gathering more of the same to you. So you become just an attractor of that love and unity vibration while you're going through, shedding all the old things.
Mm.
Definitely a dissolvement of ego, mind, and emotion, feeling them transform into considering the whole, qualifying your thoughts and qualifying the energy that comes from you, which is conscious at first, and then you'll notice all of a sudden it goes on autopilot. Your fields are different. Your neural pathways are different. Your heart is different. Your DNA, like literally different sections of your DNA will start lighting up and literally rewiring all these different fields. So you start feeling different. Contact with your own higher levels or different expressions of self that are in different realms, uh, deep sensations of peace. I have to say that's consistent. It's just this as if nothing else exists. We can look at the outside world and go, well, people are still playing with war and conflict and everything like that. But we know that you get what you focus on. So the vibration of peace just kind of permeates everything. And when like I invite people to co-create and amplify peace every single Sunday. So when you're kind of sending that into the field, you'll notice that it starts changing how you feel, which is beautiful. That means you can deal with problems and issues as they arise with a lot more ease and grace, right? You start to notice physical things happen. You'll feel not just energy surges, which is like a normal part of a light body coming back online, or DNA coming back online. But a lot of us have sparkling skin. You know, you activate these crystalline structures within, and they call it the God glitter. But there's like your skin literally looks like it has angel dust on it. It's wild, and it's coming from within. And when you're standing out in the sun, you're like, oh my goodness, this happened like 10 years ago. People started noticing widespread again in the light worker community. Oh my gosh, like it's literally coming out of my skin, you know, that because your structure is changing to hold more light. And I was like, well, I don't know where this is going, but it's really cool. So you can just, you know, you see that out in the sunlight. So that's an indication that definitely the structure is changing. Your
Okay.
communication changes. You know, there's a lot of things.
Wow. A
Yeah.
lot of things for
Being
people
able
to
to
look
see,
forward
you know,
to.
you see different realms, you see orbs and beings and all the things that come with being more psychic, more attuned to other bandwidths of reality, definitely come into play.
Yes, would you say it's becoming, you'll be getting closer to your innate self, going back home, if you like, this process of ascension?
Yeah, and it's kind of interesting that everyone says, "Oh, we're going home," because it's
Oh, I
just
see.
the heart. You know, it's just the connection with all that is through the heart, and we're not going anywhere. We're actually creating different realm experiences together to to go into, right? And it's just the stronger that vibration and that connection and that resonation with that already in place new earth realm is, the more you resonate with that, it'll be seamless. I asked once to back, this is like to 2010. I was like, I want to see it. What is like the moment when the physical thing
Mm.
changes, where you can no longer see me in a dense realm, because everyone talks about that, you know, the masters disappearing or being able to phase in and out or whatever. I was like, what exactly does that look like? What does it feel like? And it was so seamless. It was just all of a sudden you didn't have enough density, duality in your system to resonate with that lower reality any longer. And it was just there was a gateway through the heart that just opened up, and it was just seamless, like just walking through a door. It was just all of a sudden you were in that reality. And it was, the interesting part was, it was as if everything that came before it did not exist any longer, which we get little tastes of in our spiritual practice, where the back kind of falls off of the past, the reality, what happened yesterday, I can't even remember, you know, all those things that happen. You can barely remember my identity, or like what happened this morning, let alone, you know, what's going to happen in the future. You're just kind of so present. And I love that it's, and a lot of my, let's call them star family. I don't want people to attach to too many stories about, you know, Pleiadians or Arcturians or Lyrans or whatever. But there's definitely realms of consciousness where we do exist, you know, as a different expression. And when I asked those different expressions, I was like, well, how long have I been gone? You know, and this wasn't like linear thinking, you know, back in the 90s. I was, how long have I been gone? And they're like, it's you never left. You're just, part of you is having an experience in density, but you've never left us, right? And we have other expressions that we never left, that we're reconnecting with, that are of a higher vibration. And I found that really beautiful, because it really gives you perspective on like the multidimensional experience. And then it allows you not to get so entangled with how fast or slow this process is going, etc. Or, whoa, it looks like, you know, Earth's really going off the cliff or whatever. It's literally the destruction of an old
Yeah.
reality that's happening. And
Mm,
when you choose like a different creation, say like a new Earth realm, unity consciousness realm, and the stepping stone is this new earth realm where everything is existing in unity, but you get like a higher expression of trees, a higher expression of plants and animals, and we all see this. You know,
mm.
there's definitely something happening with the kingdoms and the elementals and everything that's of a higher, finer vibration. And the more you focus on that and the more you learn how to co-create in that realm, and that's the key, is to learn how to be a generator, receiver of that level of creation. And when you achieve that, it's kind of seamless. You just, right, your consciousness just changes
Right.
form expression to
Mm.
something more refined. And we're kind of walking through it. We can see the refinement happening within us, certainly God glitter, surprise. But she's like, wow, it's cool because it's physical, so it's fun. You can actually show people what it looks like.
Mm.
But there's just such a seamlessness that comes with unity consciousness or ascension, where you feel everything all at once, and there's really a grace and a beauty to all of it when you're not entangled with the old stories or the old beliefs that kind of keep you in a certain bandwidth, right?
Right. So I guess part of the ascension process is learning to let go.
Positively, yes. Yes. Such a release, such a surrender, and not a rejection. It's not, you don't want to be harsh on what you used to create. Certainly take responsibility for what you have created so far. That's part of the process. Okay, I fully own everything that I've been through, and try not to get too obsessed with trying to find out who you were before, because
Mm.
it just, all these things exist simultaneously. I would be more in pursuit of where you're going rather than who you were, because then people can get kind of married to stories about what they were in the past, which sometimes is attached to ego. I was so awesome, or I was so evil, or whatever. It's best to just kind of, it's fun to play with, and like for 6 months in the beginning of your awakening, and then just let it go. Don't be like digging through your Akashic trying to figure out who you were, because it's still like part of identity, right? It's still like entangling yourself with me and mine and my creation, instead of going into the infinite potentials of creator beingness itself. Yeah.
Now, in our talk we have had, we've really lightly touched on the surface of ascension. I know there's so much more
Yeah.
to both the understanding and the process of achieving ascension.
Mhm.
Um, for the viewers, if you wish to learn more, you can visit Sandra. Her website is www.ascensionpath.com. It's ASCENSIONPATH.com. And I do encourage you to go there and see, um, receive more information than what you've received now, which is very, very, in a way, it's kind of superficial because we're
Mhm.
just talking about the smaller things of ascension, whereas as a whole, there's so much more.
Mhm.
Sandra, I'd like to thank you for the time that you've blessed upon us to explain about ascension, what ascension is, and we have talked a little bit about um, the experiences one can have during their path to ascension. There's more questions I really wanted to ask,
Yeah.
but it'll be like all day, and it wouldn't be fair on you because of this silly thing called time zones. But it's been wonderful to have you on our show. I'm sure many of our viewers have learned and want to learn more
Mm.
from our talk just now. So yes, please go to that website, ascensionpath.com. Now, Sandra, on that website, do you have material and more information for people so that they can
A lot.
a lot.
A
Okay, there you
lot. It may
go.
be overwhelming. You might want to dabble with my YouTube channel a
Yes.
little bit. If you're somebody who likes to watch things, sign up for my light letter, weekly guidance, encouragement. observations on what's happening, just to kind of get yourself into the conversation. And then, I mean, there are courses, but they are advanced level. I'm just going to warn
Yes.
everyone. They are
Right.
advanced level. That's just where we're at. But they're also very comprehensive. It's very grounded. It's not like I'm not woo-splaining all the entire process. It's very grounded. It's always matched with scientific backup, what's happening, examples,
Mm.
very grounded information so that people can speak intelligently with other people who may be awakening or having an ascension process of their own. You know, it's always good to kind of tie it into something that people can understand, you know, in the physical realm. So it's not all, you know, up in your head or anything. It's really heart-based, but it's also comprehensive. So
Yes.
yeah.
Wonderful. And you've put this all together using your own personal experience of discovery and then process and further discovery. Um, this one last question.
Mhm.
Um, what is at the end of ascension? Like, is there an end? Is there a peak, or does it continue on to other places, other realms?
Well, on the micro level, it's you and your choice. What would you like to experience with this incarnation? That's a good question for anyone to ask themselves, whether or not you engage with ascension. What would I like to get out of this incarnation? What would I like to experience? There's that. And then ascension apparently is the obsession of the multiverse because you continually up level and you continually expand your consciousness no matter what level you're at, even like I am presence level is having an experience of reunifying and becoming something else. So there's no end to the ascension levels. But when we're talking about releasing or no longer having to incarnate and experience density, lessons, reincarnation, karma, you know, that kind of thing. That would be like a basic level ascension goal. Like, I no longer want to have to come back to learn my
Mm,
lessons. So that's a good
mm,
place to start. But ascension at the advanced levels would be a complete change of the heart field and the DNA that allows you to um, transfigure not just your consciousness, but also your form, to have mastery over that. And it sounds really weird, but there's been a lot of masters that have done it before us, and they set templates up for this time when we would be doing it collectively. So yes, things get weird down the trajectory, but it is what it is. It is what it is. And it's
mm,
also really interesting to experience that and know that it's down the timeline, but also to experience all the things that come in between that, to feel this like gradual graduation out of density is quite beautiful. But ascension itself could just continues. You know, you'll get to a certain level, or you know, we're not escaping form, we're transfiguring
mm,
form. But
mm,
let's say you don't have it to experience form anymore. There are higher realm beings that have experienced ascension out of the density. They're the ones directing us right now. And then you get to be that being that's being taught by something else, you know, above it, that's like, all right, now let's expand into this kind of creation or this kind of
mm, mm.
experience, you know. So it's definitely ongoing, which is just,
Okay.
I feel, just a quality of source itself, this infinite curiosity at all that, like, show me everything that I am, right? So it's just the creator consistently, if you experience infinite potential and infinite possibilities, you can play with everything until what? There is no end, right? That's why they call it infinite. So it
Right.
just keeps going on and becoming something else and evolving itself, right?
Wow.
Yeah, it's cool.
Thank you very much for coming on to our show. Thank
Oh,
you.
you're so welcome. It's so lovely to meet you. Thank you.
Wow. Ah, um, a lot of what we okay, that will be the end of the formal discussion. A lot of what you mentioned is aligned with Buddhism. A lot
Some,
of, a lot.
some of it, but
Not
it's
some, a lot.
well, the basics sound the same. I have to say, if we avoid, like, I just avoided
I
galactic,
know.
the
Yeah.
galactic conversation and the higher realm conversation. But the basics of spirituality are, yeah, expand your consciousness and meditate and, get into unity consciousness. That is the thing. That's the base, love is the base of all of that. And even like I was raised Catholic, and there's
Wow.
a lot of things that come
The big
through
change.
that are like there's a lot of things though when you talk about like Yeshua, Jesus, a lot of his teachings, which are, Vedic, so a lot of this stuff is really from Vedas, which kind of birthed Buddhism, so a lot of Krishna teachings and things like that, things that came out of the Mahabharata. I was shocked. I did my homework and I read the Mahabharata and I was like, oh my gosh, this is exactly what we're all talking about. And this
Mm,
is older than anything,
yeah.
so it's definitely there's a through line with all of the, religions and structures kind of touching on it.
Yeah.
But now it feels like we're kind of taking away any of the control or belief systems that came with religious structures, whether they were beneficial or not. Some people feel they're not, but
Right.
it's definitely part of the path.
It's really sad how the religions don't talk to each other. Or they talk with bullets
Honestly,
and knives and things. But,
honestly, I
um,
know. I know. I mean, some
yeah,
people do. It's definitely changing.
mm,
There are a lot of open conversations, a lot of podcasts that sit people down, and there is definitely unity and communication with intelligent people. I would say, like, the not so intelligent people are the ones that are causing a lot of problems, right? Just
yeah,
the inability or the refusal to communicate is probably
right,
a huge issue, right?
right,
Yeah,
right.
yeah.
Well, thanks again for putting aside precious time
Oh,
to
yeah. And I want to
to
thank you for our, we used the spooky too to activate some crystals, and it was really a cool experience. I know we didn't get to that,
no,
but we were working with frequencies through our own beingness. But we were like, well, what if you had, because spooky two is just a pure frequency. It doesn't have anything around it, right? It just gives you the
right,
direct, right? It's
mm,
not like coming through a vessel that might have distortions. So we're like, well, let's see, and I cooked them. I had a glass bowl in water with gold and all these double terminated Arkansas quartz crystals that had never experienced anybody else. They came straight out of the mine. So they
right,
were clear, right? In the bowl with the water, had the pads attached to the side and ran a beautiful harmonic blend of all the qualities of the heart. So it was peace, compassion, unconditional love, all these things. And threw in rose and gold, the different things from the brotherhoods and sisterhoods that we work
mm,
with.
mm,
And it was really kind of an interesting experience because as I was adding my own light to it, I found they were communicating with my field. Like there was
right,
it kept getting bigger and bigger and bigger and big and like more and more amplified. And then the crystals to this day, that was 2021 when we did that. The crystals to this day, you hold them and they're they buzz, right? Because the whole, and we were using it to compare it to the crystalline structures, holding frequency in a pure way. So we
yes,
were demonstrating, like, look what it does to a crystal. This is what you're doing in your own beingness, right? So it's really kind of cool. And I deal with a lot of people who work with the earth and grids and gateways and things. So we're planting them in the ground to connect with other master crystals that are way deep in the earth to
yes,
talk to them, right?
mm,
So
mm,
it's such a fun experiment. It was really fun, super fun. You've
super
probably
fun.
never had anybody use it for that.
Oh, I've got a child who uses super in front of everything that means of significance. I had a super good day and we're going super fast and I super love you, Bubba, she says. And then, yeah, so
Oh,
super fun. Yeah, I've heard that before.
yeah, super fun. It was.
Super fun. I like that phrase. You
Yeah.
take care. Thank you so much, Sandra. It's been
All
really
right. Thank you.
fun talking to you. You
Many
take care.
blessings.
Bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye.